The sound wasn't just a crash. It was the kind of sharp, gut-stopping crack that makes a room forget how to breathe. The antique vase jerked sideways on its pedestal, a deep fracture splitting along its base, exposing a fragile inner mechanism no one in the room understood. Linda staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth, while her son stepped forward as if the disaster had personally challenged him. "Move," Jason ordered. Maya obeyed instantly. Quiet, precise, invisible. But her eyes stayed fixed on the vase, on the trembling metal, the shifting weight, the tiny warnings everyone else missed. "I'll fix it," Jason declared, dropping to one knee with the confidence of a man who had never doubted himself. "Just stay back." He pressed his thumb against a hidden hinge. A faint click answered him. Maya's shoulders tightened. That sound. She remembered it from long evenings helping her father repair intricate mechanisms. It wasn't a hinge responding. It was a hinge giving up. Jason didn't hear danger, only his own certainty. He twisted another piece. A louder, sharper click snapped through the air. The vase shuddered. "Jason, please," Linda whispered, edging forward. "I said I've got it," he snapped, forcing a section no one should ever touch. Maya's breath lodged in her throat. A hairline crack crawled along the inner core, thin, fatal. She recognized the pressure building, the angle collapsing in on itself. One more reckless movement and the entire structure would collapse beyond saving. "Sir," she tried softly, stepping closer. Jason lifted a hand without looking at her, a gesture of pure dismissal. The vase groaned, a deep, painful creak that echoed through the hall, freezing a servant mid-step and draining the color from Linda's face. Maya moved again, instinct overriding fear. Jason pulled harder, and the vase lurched in his grip, seconds away from breaking forever. Jason's grip tightened around the trembling vase, but the room itself seemed to tighten with him. The fracture along the base widened by a breath, small enough that most people wouldn't notice, but Maya felt it like a pulse under her skin. The silence wasn't empty. It was expectant, tense, waiting for the inevitable. Linda hovered near Jason, unsure whether to step closer or pull back. Her fingers fluttered uselessly in the air before she settled them against her chest. "Jason, maybe we should call someone." Her voice trembled, not from the broken vase, but from the way her son refused to see the danger right in front of him. Jason didn't respond. His confidence sat on him like armor, heavy, rigid, unyielding. He tilted the vase minutely, trying to inspect the damage, but the movement sent a ripple of instability through the whole piece. Maya flinched at the sound it made, a strained metallic whine that reminded her of late nights watching her father coax old mechanisms back to life. It was the same sound they both knew to fear, the moment before something gives out. She shifted her weight forward, fighting the urge to take another step. Her voice felt trapped behind her teeth, but her instinct kept pushing. "Say something. He doesn't see it. Say something now before—" "Jason," she tried, her tone gentle, hoping the softness would slip under his guard. "If it leans any further, the internal plates might—" He cut her off with a sharp shake of his head, not even looking at her. "I told you, I've got this." His hands moved again, stubborn, searching for a point of control that didn't exist. The pedestal vibrated under the shifting weight. A thin curl of dust slipped from the crack, catching the light before settling at Maya's feet. She stared at it, a small omen that no one else noticed. Her heart began to beat faster, not out of fear for the vase alone, but for what its loss would mean, for the blame, for the consequences, for the outburst that would inevitably seek the nearest target. Linda sensed it too. Her voice broke slightly. "Jason, please. This vase is older than your grandfather. Maybe we should let Maya—" "Maya?" he scoffed, finally glancing at her, but only for a second, just long enough to dismiss her with a half-smile that wasn't a smile at all. "She cleans it. I fix it." The words stung, not because they were loud, but because they were so assured. So casual, so convinced of their own hierarchy. Maya lowered her gaze, not in defeat, but to hide the tightening in her expression. She wasn't angry. She was bracing. She had seen this before, pride that folds in on itself until it becomes reckless. Jason adjusted his grip again. The vase groaned. Linda gasped, both hands covering her mouth now. Maya inhaled sharply. Something inside the mechanism shifted in response to Jason's pressure, a delicate piece sliding into a dangerously rigid position. She recognized the sound instantly. It was the kind that didn't offer second chances. If he pushed again, even lightly, the antique wouldn't just crack. It would collapse from the inside out, and the silence that followed would have her standing in the center of the blame. She took a single step closer, her breath steadying despite the tremor in her chest. Someone had to stop him, and it was becoming clear no one else would try. Maya's step forward shifted the balance of the room more than the pedestal beneath the vase. Jason noticed the movement from the corner of his eye and straightened, as if her presence alone threatened his control. His fingers tightened around the fractured base, making the porcelain protest with another brittle groan. "Don't," he warned, though the shake in his voice betrayed a sliver of uncertainty he didn't want anyone to hear. But Maya didn't retreat this time. She held her ground, an almost imperceptible lift in her chin. Not defiance, just a quiet insistence born from knowing exactly how close they were to disaster. One more push and the inner plates will snap, she thought. The calculation was almost immediate, muscle memory from years spent watching her father disarm fragile antiques like they were explosives. Linda looked between them, panic rising in her throat. "Jason, sweetheart. Let her at least look. You're making it worse." He didn't snap back, but his jaw clenched, a flicker of doubt crossing his expression. It lasted only a second before pride smothered it. He adjusted the vase again, forcing its weight upright. The internal mechanism clicked in protest, louder this time, sharper, like a warning cracking open. Maya reacted before she could think. "Stop, right there." Her voice wasn't loud, but something in its tone, clean, steady, certain, made Jason freeze. He didn't turn to her, but he didn't move either. The room held its breath around them. "What did you say?" His tone tried to sound amused, dismissive, but it trembled at the edges. Maya stepped closer, her palms open, as if approaching a wounded animal. She wasn't afraid of the vase, she was afraid of what would come after, if she didn't intervene. If you shift the weight another inch, the support ring inside will collapse. The crack is already touching it. Jason blinked. Linda blinked. Even the servants lingered in the hallway, suddenly unsure whether they were witnessing insolence or salvation. "You don't know that," he muttered, but the certainty was gone. Like someone had lifted a veil he didn't realize he'd been hiding behind. Maya didn't answer with words. She answered by pointing. A thin line of dust trembled at the base of the pedestal, drifting from the deepest part of the fracture each time Jason's fingers tightened. It wasn't visible unless someone knew what it meant, but once pointed out, the truth was undeniable. Jason swallowed. For the first time, he understood the weight of what he was holding. Linda stepped beside him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Jason, let her help." His pride flared, visible, stubborn, but it flickered like a flame struggling to hold shape against a storm. He looked at the vase, then at his mother, then at Maya's steady hands waiting just inches away. He didn't hand it over, but he didn't push either. "Maya," Linda urged softly, eyes pleading. "What do we do?" The question carried a shift, subtle but powerful. It wasn't, "What does she know?" It was, "Tell us." Maya exhaled slowly, grounding herself in the space between humiliation and responsibility. "We need to stabilize it," she said quietly, "before anything else." Jason hesitated, pride and uncertainty warring across his features. His knuckles whitened around the fractured porcelain. The danger hadn't passed. It was tightening. And Maya knew. The next decision wouldn't just affect the vase. It would shape everything that came after. Jason's fingers hovered in place, stiff with indecision, the vase trembling faintly between his hands. The room felt smaller now, as if the walls themselves sensed how close everything was to collapsing. Maya stepped nearer, not touching him, not touching the vase, just entering the space he had claimed as his own. Her presence alone shifted the balance, exposing a truth he didn't want to acknowledge. He was no longer in control. "Jason," she said softly, "you're holding too much weight on the left side. If you keep the pressure there, the ring inside will snap." He didn't answer, but his breathing changed. It wasn't confidence anymore, just effort. Effort to maintain an illusion cracking as fast as the porcelain in his hands. Linda stood at his shoulder, torn between fear for the vase and fear of saying the wrong thing. "Maybe you should let Maya—" "I said I can handle it," Jason muttered, sharper than before, the bite of embarrassment slipping into his tone. He shifted the vase again to prove his point. The pedestal vibrated. The vase whimpered. Maya's pulse jumped. "Please don't move it like that." Jason looked up at her then, really looked, his eyes flashing with something louder than pride, defensiveness. The kind that grows when someone realizes, deep down, that they're wrong but can't stand the world seeing it. "You think you know more than I do?" he said quietly, but the quiet was worse than shouting. "You?" It landed like a blow, not because of the words themselves, but because of the weight behind them, the assumption, the hierarchy, the invisible wall he'd never questioned. Maya lowered her gaze for a beat, steadying her breath. Not hurt. Not yet. Just calculating the cost of her next step. "I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm trying to keep it from breaking." Jason scoffed under his breath, a fragile mockery. "Right." Another crack whispered through the vase. Linda flinched. "Jason, please. Listen to her." But he wasn't listening. Not to Linda, not to the vase, and certainly not to Maya. His face tightened with a determination that looked more like panic wearing a mask. "I just need to lift it a little and—" "No!" Maya surged closer before she could stop herself, her voice sharper than she intended. The word sliced through the room, freezing all movement. Even Jason froze, his hands suspended mid-shift. Silence hit like a wave. Maya swallowed hard, forcing her tone back down. "If you lift it now, the whole structure will fold inward. It won't just crack. It'll collapse." Jason blinked, a flicker of fear passing through him before pride smothered it again. "How would you know that?" Because she had watched her father take this vase apart 50 times. Because she had held the pieces in her hands. Because she knew the mechanism better than anyone alive. But she couldn't say any of that. Not yet. He wouldn't hear it. So she said nothing. Jason interpreted her silence as uncertainty. And uncertainty as weakness. He straightened, defensiveness burning hotter now. Exactly. And then he did the one thing she feared most. He tried to prove her wrong. He pushed the vase upward, only a fraction, barely an inch. But the vase responded with a sound that wasn't a crack, wasn't a click, wasn't even a groan. It was surrender, a deep internal snap, quiet but final, echoing through the mechanism like a verdict. Maya's heart dropped. Jason stiffened. Linda gasped. And the vase sagged in Jason's grip. Heavier now, as if the damage inside had finally given way. Maya knew instantly. The danger was no longer coming. It was already here. The shift in weight was subtle, barely a dip, but Maya felt it like the floor had tilted under her feet. The vase no longer resisted Jason's hands. It slumped into them, as if its spine had finally snapped. He froze, eyes locked on the object he'd insisted he could control. What was that?" he whispered. Maya didn't answer immediately. She stepped closer, slowly, her breath tightening with each inch she closed between them. The vase sank again, just slightly, enough to leave Jason's knuckles trembling. Linda's voice cracked. Jason, say something." He didn't. He couldn't. His certainty had drained out of him as fast as the vase's stability. Maya crouched beside him, not touching the pedestal, not touching the vase, just assessing the angle with a quick, experienced glance. She saw the truth instantly. The internal ring had slipped out of alignment. It wasn't broken yet, but it was off its track, hanging by the faintest thread of balance. "Jason," she murmured, keeping her tone steady. "The support ring disengaged. If you keep holding it like that, the lower plates will separate." He swallowed, throat working hard. "Can you fix it?" The question wasn't respectful. It wasn't humble either. It was desperate. Maya felt the weight of it press against her chest. This was what people like Jason only allowed themselves to feel when the world pushed them to a corner. Fear hidden beneath a layer of crumbling pride. "I can," she said softly. "But I can't while you're holding it like that." His jaw tightened again, reflexively returning to arrogance, but it faltered halfway. He looked at Linda, then back at Maya, battling the part of himself that refused to surrender. "You're saying I should let go?" he asked, as if the idea itself was dangerous. Maya shook her head. "No, not yet. If you let go now, it will fall." Linda pressed a shaking hand to her forehead. "Oh my God!" Maya continued, her voice low, instructive, but never condescending. "You need to shift your right hand half an inch forward, just enough to catch the weight before the plate drops." Jason didn't move. His breathing had become shallow, eyes darting across the vase like he was searching for an escape. The realization was settling in. For the first time, he was not the one giving directions. "Jason," Maya said gently, "if you don't adjust your grip, this vase will be ruined. Not cracked, not damaged, destroyed." He flinched at the word. And finally, he moved. Not confidently, not boldly, just a small, cautious shift of his fingers. The vase reacted immediately, the weight redistributing with a soft clunk that only Maya recognized as a temporary stabilization. Linda exhaled shakily. Thank God. But Maya didn't relax. This wasn't saved. This was simply paused. Jason felt it too. What now? Maya met his eyes, really met them, for the first time since the vase had cracked. "Now," she said quietly, "you need to step back." His brows furrowed. "If I step back, it'll fall." "No," she corrected. "If you keep trying to fix it, it will fall." The words weren't cruel. They weren't even sharp, but they struck deeper than anything she could have shouted. Because they were true. Jason looked at her. Really looked, and Maya saw the conflict in him. Pride refusing to die. Fear demanding help. Linda whispered, "Honey, let her try." The vase trembled again in Jason's hands, reminding all of them, that time was no longer on their side. Maya stayed perfectly still, eyes steady, waiting for his decision. This was the moment the balance would shift, either toward disaster or toward the truth they had all been avoiding. And Jason's next breath would decide which path the story followed. Jason's next breath was uneven, shallow, almost shaky, something no one in this house had ever heard from him. He held the vase like it was a verdict in his hands. Maya watched the tremor in his fingers, the way his confidence had melted into something rawer, fear disguised as hesitation. "Jason," Maya murmured, her voice steady but soft enough to slip past his defenses. "If you step back slowly, I can catch the weight before anything shifts." He didn't move. He didn't even blink. His eyes darted between Maya's hands, still hovering, still ready, and the fracture along the vase, which had widened just enough to show the dark line of separation beneath the porcelain. Linda wiped her palms on her skirt, breath trembling. "Honey, listen to her. Please." Jason swallowed hard. The muscles in his jaw worked a second time before he finally whispered, "If I let go, and you're wrong." "If I'm wrong," Maya said quietly, "it will break anyway because of what you did before." The truth landed, clean and undeniable. Jason flinched as if she'd struck him. Not violently, just enough to reveal the bruise to his pride. But the vase reacted to that tiny flinch, groaning under the shift in tension. Maya moved instantly, hands lifting toward the fragile weight, instinct overriding caution. Jason, don't move suddenly. The plates are barely holding. He froze again, breath caught between fear and humiliation. Maya steadied herself, inhaling with purpose. She had seen this exact pattern of failure before, not here, not with this vase, but with other mechanisms her father had repaired. There was always a moment where the structure pretended to be stable, right before it collapsed entirely. She could almost hear her father's voice. People break things by rushing. They save things by listening. Maya looked at Jason. He wasn't listening. Not to her, not yet. He was listening to his own panic. She stepped closer, enough that he could feel the calm in her movements. You're not alone in this. I'm here. I know how this works. Let me take the weight. Jason's breath trembled. He hated needing help. He hated being seen needing it even more. But the vase sagged again, a soft but devastating drop that echoed inside the pedestal. Linda gasped. Jason, please. I know, he snapped. But the outburst wasn't aimed at her. It was aimed at the reality cornering him. He looked at Maya again, and for the first time, the fight in his expression shifted. Not gone, but bending, cracking. What do you want me to do? He whispered. Maya didn't smile. She didn't soften. She just focused. Shift your right hand a little more forward, then your left will loosen naturally. I'll take the weight the moment it tilts. Will it fall? His voice barely held. Only if you refuse to follow my lead, she said gently. He exhaled shakily, a surrender forming in the breath. But before he could shift, the vase made a sound neither of them expected. A deep internal clack, like a trapped piece had finally slipped free of its track. Maya's eyes widened. Jason stiffened. Linda clutched her chest. The vase tilted sharply. Maya lunged forward, hands outstretched. This was no longer correction. This was rescue. And if she didn't act fast enough, the entire relic and the fragile balance in that room would shatter. The vase's sudden drop jolted the entire room. Jason's hand slipped just enough to lose control, and the fractured porcelain lurched forward with a low, wounded groan. Maya reacted instantly, sliding her hands beneath his, catching the sinking weight before it tipped past the point of no return. I have it, she whispered, steady but breathless. Jason didn't answer. He only stared at the vase as if afraid to breathe. His fingers trembled above hers, uncertain whether to grip tighter or let go entirely. Linda hovered behind them, one hand pressed to her chest. Maya, is it breaking? Not yet, Maya murmured. But it will if we don't stabilize it. Inside the vase, something shifted. A soft, hollow tick that made her blood run cold. She recognized that sound, the inner plate slipping free. One more bad angle and the mechanism would collapse on itself. Jason's voice cracked. Tell me what to do. Maya examined the tilt, the fracture line creeping upward like a spreading branch. You need to lift it a little, just enough for me to shift the base back into place. Lift? Jason recoiled. If I lift it, it'll fall apart. If you keep holding it like this, it will, she said calmly. 1 inch, no more. His breath stuttered. Fear flickered behind his eyes, not the kind he could hide with arrogance, but the kind that exposed how fragile his certainty truly was. Maya, what if I drop it? You won't, she said. I'm right here. He hesitated, then lifted, barely, cautiously. The vase answered with a deep internal crack. Stop, Maya said sharply. Jason froze. Sweat beaded at his temple. Linda gasped softly behind them. Maya leaned closer, studying the opening. The inner plate hung crooked, clinging to its track by a thin edge. One wrong motion and gravity would finish what the crack had started. Jason, she whispered, you need to hold it perfectly still now. I'm going to shift the core. When the weight changes, do not counter it. Let it move. His voice trembled. And if I react the wrong way? Then it breaks. she said simply. The truth fell heavy in the space between them. Jason's breath shook. Maya centered herself, hands firm under the fragile weight. She could feel exactly where the mechanism was failing. Her father had taught her that sensation, the delicate point between failure and rescue. Maya, hurry, Jason pleaded, the fear finally audible. The vase trembled again, and Maya moved. Maya's hands moved with precision born from years of watching her father coax fragile mechanisms back from the brink. She shifted the base by a hair's width, just enough to realign the crooked plate without forcing it. The vase answered with a faint metallic sigh, a signal only someone like her would recognize as a temporary reprieve. Jason felt the weight change and panicked. Is that supposed to happen? Yes, she said without looking up. Don't counter it. I don't think... His voice wavered, the strain of stillness trembling through every muscle in his arms. Maya didn't have the luxury of reassuring him. The vase was whispering to her in sounds no one else noticed. A subtle vibration beneath the porcelain, the faint scrape of a loose piece inside. She crouched lower, eyes narrowing as she traced the fracture line with her gaze. Something wasn't right, not with the crack, not with the mechanism, with the pedestal. Her breath caught. The vase wasn't failing on its own. The pedestal's stabilizing pin, an old brass rod meant to keep the vase from tilting, had slipped halfway out of its socket, barely visible under the base. Hidden unless someone knew where to look. That's why it's leaning. It was never just the crack. It's the pedestal failing beneath it. Maya, Jason whispered, voice tightening. Why aren't you saying anything? She didn't answer yet. She leaned closer, inspecting the pedestal from another angle. The brass pin glinted faintly, almost mocking in its simplicity. So small, so easy to overlook, and yet it was responsible for nearly sending a priceless artifact crashing to pieces. Her heart pounded. Of course, she breathed, barely audible. Jason stiffened. Of course what? Maya, what's going on? She finally looked up at him, eyes urgent but steady. The problem isn't just the vase, the pedestal is failing. The stabilizer pin slipped. Linda gasped. The pedestal? But how? It's been there for years. Maya nodded. It must have loosened over time. If the pin drops any farther, the vase will tilt beyond anything we can correct. Jason stared at her, bewildered. I didn't even know it had a stabilizer pin. You weren't supposed to, Maya said softly. It's meant to be invisible. The implication hung between them. Heavy, unavoidable. Jason had been trying to fix something he didn't understand. And Maya had been silently watching him battle a problem he never even saw. She shifted her hands, bracing the vase more firmly. Jason, I need you to keep it balanced while I reach the pedestal. What? No, if I move even a little. You won't, she said calmly. Just hold it. I'll handle the rest. He swallowed, fear choking his pride. How do you even know about that pin? She hesitated, but only for a moment. My father installed it, she said quietly. I used to help him maintain it. Jason blinked, stunned. Linda's breath hitched. Maya moved one hand down the side of the pedestal, fingertips searching for the loose pin. She could feel the tiny vibrations through the wood, the vibration of something moments from giving out. If she didn't fix it now, the vase would fall no matter how carefully Jason held it. Found it, she whispered. Jason's fingers tightened around the rim. Maya, please, just tell me what to do. She didn't look up. She didn't need to. Do exactly what you're doing, she said. Keep it steady. Then, with her free hand, she reached underneath the base, toward the failing stabilizer, toward the hidden flaw that had started this entire disaster, toward the truth only she had seen. And as her fingers brushed the loose pin, she felt it shift again. A tiny movement that told her she had one chance. Only one. The stabilizer pin shifted again beneath Maya's fingertips, so loose it vibrated with every breath Jason took. She steadied it carefully, guiding the metal back toward its socket. One precise push and the pedestal would hold again. She opened her mouth to warn him. Jason, don't move. I just need to reseat the... But his panic snapped first. Maya, what are you doing down there? His voice cracked, brittle with fear disguised as irritation. She kept her tone even. The pedestal pin slipped. If I fix it, the vase will stop tilting. Instead of relief, he stiffened. No, don't start messing with other things. Just hold it like I said. I'm not messing with anything, she replied calmly. This is the problem. If I don't fix the pin... I said stop. The sharpness in his voice cut through the room. Maya didn't flinch, but something inside her tightened. She held the pedestal with one hand and supported the vase with the other, keeping the weight balanced in spite of him. Linda stepped forward. Jason, you can't talk to her like... Mom, not now. He didn't look at Linda. His anger stayed trained on Maya, fueled by embarrassment more than logic. You're making this worse. Just do your job and keep it steady. The words hit harder than his tone. Your job. As if her role ended at silence. As if she hadn't already prevented the vase from crashing minutes ago. Maya inhaled slowly. If you let me align the pin, you won't have to fight the weight anymore. Jason let out a short, incredulous breath. Right. The maid knows more about antiques than I do. She didn't answer. Her refusal to shrink seemed to frustrate him even more. Before she could react, the pedestal trembled, the loose pin slipping again. Maya shifted instantly, steadying the base with practiced instinct. Jason, she warned, if you keep adjusting the vase without fixing the pedestal, it will collapse. I'll fix it myself, he snapped, stepping forward. Jason, don't touch the base. You don't know which. Move! The word struck like a shove before his hand actually did. Not aggressive, but firm enough to push her aside. Her fingers slipped away from the pin. The metal dropped another millimeter. Maya froze. Jason, stop! Don't touch anything! But he was already crouching where she'd been, fumbling blindly beneath the pedestal. His hand pressed the wrong panel. The structure wobbled violently. Linda gasped. Jason! The vase lurched in his grip. Jason's face drained of color. And Maya saw it happen. Not the disaster itself, but the moment just before disaster, when arrogance finally gives way to fear. Jason's mistake had undone everything she had managed to save. The pedestal was moments from collapsing. And now, she was no longer fighting the vase. She was fighting him. The pedestal wobbled so sharply that Jason froze with one hand still jammed beneath the base. The vase tilted again, its weight shifting with a low, distressed moan that traveled through the room like a warning none of them could ignore. Maya reached out to steady it, but Jason jerked his arm in front of her. I said I've got it! He snapped, the fear in his voice leaking through the anger. Jason, you don't... Maya said, trying to keep her tone calm. The pedestal is failing. If you keep touching it like that, the vase will... He cut her off by pushing upward, trying to force the vase upright. The internal mechanism screeched in protest, the sound metallic and painful. Maya felt her stomach drop. He wasn't stabilizing it. He was twisting the structure into a worse angle. Linda stepped forward, hands trembling. Jason, please, just let her... No! Jason's frustration erupted. Everyone keeps acting like I can't fix a simple vase. Maya blinked, stunned by the word simple. Nothing about this mechanism was simple. And the way he forced it proved he didn't understand what he was dealing with. Jason, she said firmly, if you push any harder, the cracked plate will snap. He hesitated only a second, just long enough for doubt to flicker, before he muttered, I can still fix it, and reached under the pedestal again. Maya lunged forward. Don't! But he had already pressed against the wrong point. A deep internal crack sounded, worse than all the others before it. The vase sagged in his grip, shifting dangerously. Jason paled. What was that? The last support, Maya whispered. You just dislodged it. Silence hit the room like a cold wave. The pedestal stabilizer pin had dropped completely, She could see the gap beneath the platform now. The vase was hanging on a single angle of friction, one tremor away from disaster. Linda's voice trembled. "Maya, can you save it?" Maya assessed the angle quickly, her breath tight. "I can, but only if Jason steps back." Jason's head snapped toward her. "I'm not the reason this is happening." Maya didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Jason, look at your hands." He looked. They were shaking. The vase was slipping. And he knew, finally, painfully, that he wasn't helping. Maya continued softly. "If you keep touching it, there's nothing I can do." Jason swallowed hard, torn between pride and the visible truth collapsing in front of him. The vase wobbled again, and he instinctively tightened his grip, making it worse. Maya moved closer, her voice low but urgent. "Jason, let go." He didn't move, not yet, but his fear had finally reached the place his pride couldn't protect. The vase trembled so violently in Jason's hands that Maya moved without thinking, stepping forward to steady it. But before her fingers reached the porcelain, he raised his arm sharply, blocking her. "Don't!" he snapped. "I said I've got it." Maya froze mid-motion. "Jason, please, just look at the angle. The inner plate is slipping. If you lift it again—" "I don't need instructions from you," he cut in, voice tight with panic he refused to admit. "Just do your job and let me handle this." The words struck harder than the tone. Do your job. As if the last 10 minutes hadn't been her rescuing his mistakes. She tried again, choosing each word with care. "I'm telling you the pedestal won't hold. If the stabilizer pin drops any farther—" Jason scoffed, a forced, brittle sound. "The pedestal is fine. You're overreacting." Linda stepped forward. "Jason, she's trying to help—" "Mom, stop!" he snapped, not taking his eyes off the vase. Maya inhaled, steadying herself. The vase sagged again in Jason's grip, and she felt the shift through the air, an unmistakable sign the mechanism was failing. "Jason, listen to me. If you move your left hand even slightly, the weight will—" "Enough." His palm shot toward her again, silencing both her words and her movement. "You keep talking like you know more about this than I do." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The vase, tilted and trembling, answered for her. But Jason pushed past the truth, tightening his grip as if force could replace understanding. "This is my responsibility. I'll fix what I messed up." "You can't fix it by forcing it," Maya warned. He barked a strained laugh. "You think you're the expert here?" Her chest tightened with a restrained breath. She didn't rise to the insult. She simply tried to save the vase again, inching forward. "Jason, please, stop moving it." He spun toward her with a flash of anger. "If you touch it again, you will break it. Do you understand?" The room fell silent. Maya's hand hovered at her side, the sting of the words burning deeper than any shove. Jason wasn't hearing her. He was fighting the humiliation of being wrong, and the vase was seconds from paying for it. Linda whispered, "Jason, please." But he wasn't listening. He reached under the pedestal again, fingers fumbling, desperate to regain control. His thumb pressed against the wrong panel. A deep internal crack sounded. Maya's breath caught. "Jason, no." He jerked the vase upward to correct the tilt. The mechanism screamed, and Maya knew, with crystal clarity, that danger had finally overtaken warning. The vase was about to break. The crack that echoed from inside the vase wasn't just louder, it was final. Jason's breath hitched as the vase jerked in his hands, its fractured core sliding into a position no mechanism should ever reach. For a split second, the entire structure seemed to sag toward the floor. Maya reacted instantly. "Jason, don't move, don't even breathe wrong." But he was already spiraling. His hands tightened instinctively, trying to force the vase upright again. The porcelain squealed under the pressure, a sharp metallic grind that made Linda gasp behind them. "Oh my God! Jason, stop!" Linda cried, voice cracking. "I can't stop!" Jason shouted back. "If I let go, it'll fall." "It's falling because you're forcing it," Maya said, stepping closer. "Just hold it still, exactly still." Jason stumbled a half step backward, and the pedestal wobbled dangerously beneath him. The stabilizer pin, already hanging loose, shifted again with a faint metallic tremor. Maya saw it dip lower. "Jason, don't move your feet," she warned. "The pedestal can't handle any more weight shifting." "I didn't mean to." Jason's voice trembled with something new. Panic stripped of arrogance. "Maya, I'm losing it." The vase sagged again, slipping along the fracture. Maya reached out, steadying the side without lifting it. Even the contact made the mechanism groan. The room erupted into chaos behind them. Servants gasping, someone whispering a frantic prayer, Linda pacing with trembling hands pressed to her forehead. But Maya stayed still, focused, listening to every tiny sound the structure made. "Jason," she said softly but urgently, "look at the crack. Do you see how it's spreading upward? That means the internal ring isn't supporting the weight anymore." Jason swallowed hard, eyes wide. "What do I do? Tell me what to do." She lowered herself, peering at the pedestal. The stabilizer pin finally slipped free, landing on the marble with a sharp ping that echoed through the hall. Linda covered her mouth. "No, no, no!" Jason's knees buckled slightly. "That's bad, right?" "Maya, please, just tell me." Maya braced both hands against the pedestal, catching it as it tilted dangerously. The momentum pushed against her arms, forcing her muscles to lock to keep it from tipping. "Don't move," she whispered. "Don't shift the vase. And Jason, don't fight me. If you move against my balance, it's over." Jason froze. Sweat slid down his temple. The vase trembled between them, its weight redistributed in a way that felt unpredictable, almost alive. Every second stretched painfully long. "Maya," he whispered, barely breathing. I didn't mean for this to happen." She didn't answer. Not yet. Her focus stayed on the structure barely holding together beneath their hands. The danger was no longer building. It was fully here, resting on her palms and on Jason's trembling grip. The pedestal leaned so far that Maya had to brace it with her shoulder to keep it from tipping. The vase sagged with it, sliding dangerously in Jason's trembling grip. One more uncontrolled breath from him, and the entire relic would crash. "Jason, hold it exactly where it is," she said, her voice sharp with urgency. "No lifting, no correcting, just hold." "I'm trying," his voice cracked. "Maya, it's slipping, I can feel it. It's slipping because you're gripping too hard. Ease your fingers a little." He loosened them, barely. The vase settled into a fragile balance that felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Maya kept her hand beneath the base, tracking the vibration inside the structure. The internal plate rattled again, sliding another fraction of an inch off-center. Linda stepped closer, eyes red and frantic. "Maya, please, tell me it's not going to break." Maya didn't answer. Not yet. Her eyes stayed locked on the fracture spreading upward, thin as a hair but growing with every quiver. "Jason," she said, "your left hand is pressing directly on the cracked section. If you keep applying pressure there, the plate inside will drop." Jason swallowed hard. I didn't know that." "That's why you have to listen now," Maya said. "Shift your right hand forward, slowly." He did, but too fast. The vase jerked in his hands, and Linda gasped. "Stop!" Maya snapped. "That's enough." Jason froze, breath stuttering. "I'm doing everything wrong." "Not wrong," she corrected softly. "Just rushed." A harsh creak echoed from the pedestal as the last bit of wood scraped across the marble floor. The pedestal now stood on a sliver of its base, threatening to collapse sideways. Maya felt the shift through her entire body. "Jason, do not move. If you react, even by accident, the core will drop." His voice thinned to a whisper. "Tell me what to do." "You hold," she said. "I stabilize." She slid one hand beneath the base, carefully, deliberately, feeling the weight shift toward her palm. The vase trembled violently, a deep internal click signaling that the plate inside was rotating again, dangerously close to falling into an empty cavity. Maya's breath caught. "Jason, we don't have much time." His eyes widened. Maya, please, just fix it. I can, but only if you stop trying to fix it with me. He hesitated, pride and panic warring inside him, then nodded, small, terrified, surrendering. The room seemed to shrink around them. Every servant held their breath. Linda wrapped her arms around herself, whispering a plea no one could hear. Another tremor ran through the vase. Jason flinched. It's slipping again. Maya. I know. Her voice steadied. But you're not letting go. That's all that matters. Then came the sound she feared most. A faint, hollow clack inside the base, the unmistakable signal that the mechanism had reached its final threshold. The next movement, any movement, would decide everything. The faint clack inside the vase settled like a verdict. Jason felt it vibrate through his palms, and the terror in his eyes finally eclipsed every trace of arrogance. The vase was no longer just unstable. It was primed to collapse inward, the fractured core bowing under its own weight. Maya moved first. She pressed her shoulder harder into the pedestal, steadying its dangerous lean. Jason, she said, her voice low but commanding. Look at me. He didn't. His stare was locked on the trembling porcelain, as if refusing to blink could hold it together. Only when the pedestal groaned beneath their weight did he finally meet her eyes. Jason, she repeated, this isn't about blame anymore. It's about keeping everyone safe. The word landed. Safe. Not the vase, not pride. People. Linda instinctively stepped back, clasping her hands to her chest. A servant hovered near the doorway, eyes wide, unsure if she should run or stay. Jason's voice thinned. Maya, I can't hold it. It's slipping no matter what I do. It's slipping because the internal plate is loose, she said, scanning the fractures. If it collapses while you're holding it like that, the pieces could burst outward. Jason froze. Linda gasped. Maya softened her tone. Jason, you could get hurt. I need you to trust me. He swallowed hard. Just tell me what to do. Maya positioned herself closer, hands sliding beneath the vase until she felt its trembling weight settle against her palms. She adjusted her stance, anchoring her feet as her father had taught her. Steady base, steady hands. Good, she murmured. Now, ease your left hand. Slowly. Jason obeyed, trembling. The vase dipped, but Maya shifted instantly, matching its movement. She felt the inner plate scrape again. There wasn't much time. Jason, she said quietly, you're going to stop trying to fix it. He blinked at her, breath shaking. If I let go, it'll fall. No, she answered, eyes never leaving the vase. If you let go, I'll catch it. But if you hold on any longer, it will break. His pride flared for a moment, one last reflex, but this time it didn't win. He nodded, the motion small and frightened. Maya prepared her grip. I'm ready. Pull your hands back. 1 inch at a time. Jason exhaled shakily and began to withdraw. 1 inch. Another. The vase settled deeper into Maya's hands, its entire weight, its instability, its danger. Her arms tightened with the strain. The mechanism vibrated violently, threatening to collapse at any second. Jason stepped back fully now, hands hanging useless at his sides, expression hollow. And in that moment, he understood. She wasn't just saving the vase. She was saving everyone in the room from the damage he had nearly caused. When Jason finally stepped back, the weight of the vase shifted entirely into Maya's arms. It was heavier than she expected. Heavy not just with porcelain, but with the tension vibrating through its fractured interior. She braced her feet, grounding herself before the next tremor hit. Is it going to fall? Jason asked, voice barely above a whisper. Only if you come near it again, she said, eyes fixed on the widening crack. Stay exactly where you are. Linda pressed both hands to her mouth, watching Maya lower the vase a fraction of an inch to sense where the internal plate had lodged. The mechanism rattled sharply, a metallic flutter that echoed through the hall. A servant gasped. Jason flinched. Maya didn't even blink. There, she whispered, more to herself than anyone. I feel where it slipped. She slid her fingers beneath the base, tracing the subtle curve her father once taught her to recognize, the shape that told you where the plate hid, where it could still be caught. Her pulse steadied. This part wasn't guesswork, it was memory. "Do you need my help?" Jason asked, taking half a step forward. "Stay back," she said instantly. Any vibration could finish the crack. He stopped mid-step, shame washing over his face. Right. Sorry." Maya angled the vase slightly, and the porcelain groaned, low, strained, but controlled. Linda staggered back at the sound, clutching her heart. "It's supposed to do that," Maya said. "The plate is shifting." Jason frowned, bewildered. I can't see anything moving." "That's because you were looking at the surface," Maya murmured. "The real danger is always underneath." Jason swallowed hard. He didn't argue. Maya adjusted her hands again. The vase trembled violently, and Jason jolted forward, only to stop when she lifted her chin in warning. "If it drops," she said, "it drops with me. Don't interfere." Jason froze. The humility in his stillness was sharper than any apology he could have offered. Inside the vase, the plate scraped again, louder this time, and Maya shifted her grip, tilting the base an inch to the left. She felt the weight roll, threatening to slip out of her control. Her arms shook with the effort, but her focus never wavered. "Come on," she whispered to the mechanism. "Find the track." Then, a soft click. Not explosive, not dangerous. A settling sound. Maya exhaled. "Good. That's one piece back in place." Linda let out a shaky breath. Jason stared at her in stunned silence, as if seeing her for the first time. "You actually understand this thing," he said softly. Maya didn't answer. Her hands were already adjusting for the next correction. The vase wasn't safe yet, but for the first time, it was hers to save. The vase steadied for a brief, trembling moment, just long enough for Maya to shift her weight and prepare for the next correction. Jason watched her hands as if they were performing something impossible, something he'd never imagined anyone in his house could do. "Maya, how do you even know where to move it?" he asked quietly, almost afraid of the answer. She didn't respond at first. She tilted the vase again, carefully, listening to the faint scrape inside. The plate adjusted a millimeter to the right. Maya nodded to herself. "My father taught me," she finally said, her voice low, focused. "He worked on this vase years before any of you lived here." Linda blinked, stunned. "Your father?" "This exact vase." Maya nodded, eyes still locked on the mechanism. "He was the one they called whenever something delicate in this house needed fixing. I used to come with him after school. I held the tools, learned the pressure points, listened to every sound the plates made. Another subtle tilt, another controlled shift in weight." Jason stared at her, speechless. Why didn't you say anything before?" Maya almost laughed, but the vase trembled, stopping her. "You weren't listening. You never do when someone like me speaks." The words weren't cruel, just honest. Jason's face tightened, shame flickering through him. Linda stepped forward, voice gentle. "Maya, I had no idea your father worked here." "He didn't work here," Maya corrected. "He built and repaired things here, quietly, invisibly. People remembered the pieces, not the man behind them." A faint metallic click echoed inside the vase. Maya recognized it instantly, the second plate slipping into the correct position. Her shoulders relaxed a fraction. "My father showed me this mechanism a dozen times," she continued. "Said it was one of his favorites because no one knew how complex it really was. They only saw the porcelain, not what kept it standing." Jason swallowed, eyes fixed on her hands. "So, you've known how to fix this the whole time?" "I've known how to protect it," she said softly. "Fixing it depends on whether people let me." Jason looked away. He didn't argue. Couldn't. The truth weighed heavier than the vase. Maya adjusted her grip again. The pedestal steadied under her touch, as if responding to the confidence she carried. The vase was still unstable, but it was no longer moments from collapse. "You shouldn't have had to do this alone," Jason murmured. Maya didn't answer. Not because she disagreed, but because the final adjustment was coming. And for that, she needed every memory her father ever gave her. The room fell into a charged silence after Maya spoke of her father. It wasn't the kind of silence that followed shock. It was the kind that followed truth. Heavy, undeniable, reshaping everything around it. Jason stood frozen, shoulders slumped, as if her words had peeled back a layer of the house he'd never bothered to see. I didn't know," he said quietly. "You weren't supposed to," Maya replied, not harshly. "My father worked behind the scenes. People like him don't leave plaques or signatures, only fingerprints on things others take credit for." Linda's eyes glistened with something between guilt and realization. "Maya, we should have known. We should have asked." Maya didn't look up. Her attention stayed locked on the trembling vase. It wouldn't have changed anything. People remember the object, not the hands that kept it alive. A deep internal rattle cut through the air, the inner plate shifting too far to one side. Maya tightened her grip instantly, compensating before it could slip into the cavity that would shatter the core. Her forearms shook from the effort. Jason stepped forward on instinct. "Do you need help?" "Stop," she said firmly. "Please, just stay where you are." He froze mid-step, chastened. It wasn't anger this time. It was fear of making anything worse. Maya breathed through the strain, adjusting the base again. In her mind, she could see her father's hands guiding hers. Slow. Don't fight the weight. Redirect it. He used to say mechanisms behaved like scared animals. They broke when handled with force, but responded to patience. She shifted her palms a fraction. A faint click responded. The plate began to settle. Not fully, but close enough to buy another second. Jason watched her with a mix of awe and regret. "You're doing what I couldn't do in 20 minutes. "You were trying to dominate it," Maya murmured. "You can't force something delicate to obey. You have to understand why it's resisting." He swallowed hard. "I didn't respect it." "Or you?" Maya's breath hitched, not because of the words, but because the vase suddenly dipped, the fracture widening in a jagged diagonal. She steadied it immediately, but the pressure was building fast. Linda gasped. "Is it failing again?" "Not yet," Maya said, "but this is the last window. If I don't realign the core now, nothing will hold." Jason's voice shook. "Tell me how to help." "You already did," Maya replied softly. "You stepped back." That truth struck deeper than any criticism. Jason lowered his gaze, accepting it. Maya inhaled once, deep and controlled, and adjusted the vase a final inch. The internal plate scraped loudly, then stopped. A silence fell so sudden it felt like a held breath. Maya didn't celebrate. This was the moment before the moment. The core was in position. But the final realignment, the one her father warned required absolute precision, still awaited her hands. And the entire room sensed it. They weren't watching a vase anymore. They were watching the truth rise to the surface. The room stayed suspended in a tense stillness as Maya held the vase against her palms. The internal plate had stopped rattling, but only because it was trapped, balanced on a narrow ledge inside, waiting for the smallest motion to decide its fate. The next step had to be perfect. Maya adjusted her grip by millimeters, feeling the porcelain respond through the tremor in her fingertips. Jason stood a few steps back, rigid, eyes locked on her hands as if any blink might break the fragile equilibrium. "Maya, what are you doing now?" he whispered. "Listening," she answered. She angled the vase slightly, letting gravity reveal where the pressure gathered. The faintest vibration pulsed against her skin. Yes. There. That was the point her father had shown her years ago. The hidden balance center most people never realized existed. She rotated the vase a fraction, barely noticeable, but the mechanism inside shifted with a soft scrape. Jason tensed. Linda clasped her hands and held her breath. "It's okay," Maya said quietly. "It's moving the way it should." Another micro-adjustment. A second scrape. A third. Each sound was a sign of the core waking back into alignment. She pressed her thumb gently against the base, lifting it just enough to free the trapped plate. The porcelain groaned, low, tense. But Maya didn't hesitate. "Come on," she murmured. The plate slipped. Then, a clean, sharp click echoed from within. Everyone froze. The weight suddenly redistributed into her palms, no longer fighting her hands, no longer pulling toward collapse. It settled, steady and centered, as if remembering what it had always been. Maya exhaled slowly. "There it is." Jason stared at her. What just happened?" "I reset the core," she said, guiding the vase carefully onto the pedestal. "It's stable again." Linda let out a shaky sound that was half laugh, half sob. "Maya, you saved it." Maya released the vase fully. It didn't wobble, didn't shift. It simply stood upright, quiet, whole beneath its surface crack. Jason took a hesitant step closer, awe softening his features. "I worked on it forever and only made it worse. And you fixed it like it was nothing." Maya shook her head. "It wasn't nothing. I just knew where to look." Jason swallowed hard. The truth pressed visibly against him. She had done in seconds what he, armed with confidence and control, never could. And the weight of that realization filled the silence around them. The vase stood upright on the pedestal, steady at last. The fracture still marked its surface, but the danger was gone. A fragile stillness settled over the room, one that carried more truth than relief. Maya lowered her hands slowly, letting her fingers unwind from the tension they'd been holding. The quiet that followed wasn't just silence. It was the realization of how close they had come to losing everything. Jason stared at the vase like it was a stranger. I really almost broke it," he whispered. "You did break it," Maya said gently. "I just stopped it from finishing." He absorbed that without protest. His stare dropped to his hands that still trembled with the memory of the damage they'd caused. Linda approached cautiously, eyes glossy. "Maya, how long has it been like this? This fragile?" "Long enough that one wrong touch could have collapsed the core," Maya answered. "It's been deteriorating for years." "And we never noticed," Linda murmured, shaken. Jason let out a ragged breath. "I didn't notice anything. I just assumed it was fine." "That's the problem," Maya replied softly. "Assuming." Jason flinched but didn't look away this time. A housekeeper near the doorway gathered her courage to speak. "Miss, when the vase tilted earlier, I thought it was going to explode. It sounded like something inside was tearing apart." "It was," Maya said simply. "If I hadn't caught the plate before it dropped, the internal pressure would have forced pieces outward. It could have hurt someone." Jason went pale, guilt washing through him in waves. "I had no idea." "You didn't want to know," Maya corrected gently. "You wanted to fix it alone." That truth hit him harder than any accusation. He swallowed, shoulders curling inward. "You're right. I thought showing I could handle it would make me look capable." Maya tilted her head. "Capability isn't about being the first to grab a problem. It's about understanding it." Linda's voice trembled. "Maya, you saved the vase. You saved us from something much worse." Maya didn't respond to the praise. Her attention remained on the pedestal, verifying stability. Only when she was certain the vase wouldn't shift did she step back fully. Jason watched her closely, something new forming behind his expression. Respect, yes, but also a dawning awareness of everything he'd overlooked. "I ignored you," he said quietly, "even when you were the only one who understood what was happening." Maya didn't soften the truth. "You didn't ignore me. You dismissed me. Jason closed his eyes briefly, the admission cutting deeper than her words. When he opened them again, they were different. Less guarded, less proud. I'm sorry. She nodded but didn't dwell on it. The apology mattered, but not more than the moment itself. Around them, the servants exhaled as if released from a long-held breath. The crisis had passed, but the weight of the truth remained. Without her intervention, the vase would be a pile of shards. Without her understanding, they would have been standing in danger. Without her presence, Jason's confidence would have cost them everything. The family saw it now, clearly, painfully. Maya hadn't just prevented destruction. She had quietly held together what they took for granted. For a long moment, no one moved. The vase stood firmly on the pedestal, cracked yet steady, proof of how close disaster had come and how narrowly it had been avoided. Maya took one slow step back, letting her arms relax. The tremor in her muscles was subtle, but real. She had held the weight of the house, literally and figurativamente, long enough. Jason's gaze stayed glued to the vase, then drifted toward her. His chest rose unevenly, as if he were trying to steady more than just his breathing. Maya, he began, voice catching on the first syllable. She looked at him, waiting. I didn't save it, he said quietly. I almost destroyed it. Those words struck deeper than any apology. They were honest, bare. Linda stepped forward, eyes softening. He's right. If you hadn't been here, if you hadn't known exactly what to do, this room would be filled with broken porcelain. A murmur of agreement came from the doorway, where the staff had gathered, still shaken. They'd witnessed everything, every warning, every dismissal, every moment Maya had fought the collapse Jason nearly caused. Maya kept her expression composed. Anyone would have tried to help. Jason shook his head quickly. No, they would have panicked. I did panic. You didn't. You were the only one who understood what was happening. Maya lowered her gaze for a breath, not out of shyness, but to give him space to finish. He needed this moment more than she did. I didn't listen to you, he continued, the shame unmistakable. You warned me. More than once. And instead of trusting you, I made everything worse. Linda touched his shoulder gently. He didn't shrug her off this time. Maya finally replied, her voice calm but firm. I wasn't trying to prove I knew more. I was trying to prevent a disaster. I know, Jason whispered, and I made it harder. For no reason other than my ego. The honesty in his tone rippled through the room. Linda approached Maya fully now. You've worked here for years. We should have known more about your skills, about your father, about everything you were quietly carrying. Maya didn't rush to answer. She let the words sit. They were the kind of words people said only when a truth had shaken them. Jason looked at the vase again, then at her. I didn't respect what I didn't understand. That was my mistake, not yours. Maya held his gaze, not with triumph, but with steady clarity. You see it now. That's what matters. Jason exhaled a breath that seemed to drain months of arrogance from him. You saved the vase, but you also saved me from myself. Maya didn't react outwardly, but something in the room shifted. A quiet reevaluation of who she was, what she knew, and how essential she had become. Without her, nothing standing in that hall would have survived, and everyone there knew it. The weight of Jason's confession lingered in the air, reshaping the room more deeply than the repaired vase ever could. Maya stood quietly, hands finally still, the tremor fading now that the crisis was over. But the looks around her, those didn't fade. They deepened. Linda stepped closer, her expression open in a way Maya had never seen. Maya, we owe you more than gratitude. We owe you acknowledgement. Your father's work, your work, none of it should have been invisible. Maya blinked once, taken slightly off guard. She'd expected relief, maybe thanks, but acknowledgement, real, full acknowledgement, was something she had learned not to expect from this house. Jason approached slowly, as though afraid to disrupt the fragile honesty hanging between them. He stopped a respectful distance away. "I can't change how dismissive I was," he said softly. "But I can change what I do next." She held his gaze, not giving him an easy way out. He didn't look away. "You trusted me too late," she said, not bitterly, but truthfully. "I know," he replied, "and I'm asking for the chance to fix that, properly this time." Linda nodded beside him. "We would like to honor your father's work, his contributions to this home. They deserve to be remembered. And so do yours." For the first time since the chaos began, something bright flickered behind Maya's eyes. She didn't smile, she wasn't ready for that, but she lifted her chin slightly, a quiet gesture of dignity reclaimed. "That would have meant a lot to him," she said. "It will mean a lot to us," Linda replied. Jason looked toward the vase again, the crack running through it now a reminder, not of damage, but of truth. "We'd like you to take over the maintenance of the artifacts officially," he said, not as an afterthought, not in the background, as the person who actually understands them. Maya studied him for a long moment, weighing the sincerity behind the offer. His posture wasn't proud this time, not defensive, simply open. "You're sure?" she asked. "Yes," Jason said. "I've seen what happens when I think I know better. I'd rather learn." The room softened around them, not with pity, with respect. The staff who had witnessed everything exchanged small nods, relief mingling with admiration. They had always known Maya was capable. Now the family finally saw it too. Maya exhaled slowly. "Then I'll accept, on one condition." Jason straightened. "Anything." "You listened the first time," she said simply. A brief, genuine smile touched his face. "Deal." Linda clasped her hands together, the tension leaving her shoulders. "This house feels safer already." Maya didn't feel triumphant. She felt steady, seen, standing on her own ground, not as someone who happened to be present in an emergency, but as someone whose knowledge carried real weight. The vase remained cracked, yes, but stable. A symbol of what had been damaged, what had been repaired, and what would no longer be ignored. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt the house wasn't closing in on her. It was opening. And as Jason stepped aside, not to lead, but to let her lead, she understood the quiet truth her father always hinted at. Some things break, so the truth beneath can finally be seen. Maya walked out of the hall with her dignity restored, the family watching her with respect they should have offered long ago, and a new beginning settling calmly into place. A beginning she had earned. The house finally settled into a calm that felt earned, not forced, a quiet that carried gratitude instead of fear. The vase stood steady on the pedestal, cracked, yes, but no longer at risk. Its fracture didn't diminish its worth. If anything, it deepened it. It became a reminder of what almost was lost, and of who prevented that loss. Maya stepped back, her hands finally free, her posture no longer cautious but assured. The room, the same room that once dismissed her presence, now held its breath around her with a new kind of awareness. Respect had weight, and for the first time, they all felt it. Jason approached slowly, no longer hiding behind pride. "Maya," he said, voice steady, "you didn't just save a vase. You saved us from our own blindness, from my blindness." She let the words land, not to bask in them, but because they mattered, because they were overdue. Linda nodded beside him. "Your father's work, your knowledge, we should have seen it long ago. You deserved better, and from now on, you will get better." Maya didn't smile. She didn't need to. Her silence wasn't submission anymore. It was presence, strength. She finally belonged in the space she had always sustained quietly from the shadows. Jason exhaled, humbled. "If you're willing, I'd like to learn from you." "Really learn? No assumptions? No ego?" Maya considered him for a long, intentional moment. Then, "I'll teach, but only if you listen. I will, he said, and this time, he meant it. She walked toward the door, posture steady, leaving behind not the role they once forced her into, but the truth they finally recognized. She hadn't been a background figure. She had been the foundation, just like the mechanisms her father built. Unseen, essential, irreplaceable. The vase survived its fracture. And so did she. Not broken, restored. Before you leave, share your thoughts in the comments. Which moment in Maya's journey hit you the hardest? The dismissal, the danger, or the recognition she finally earned? Your comment helps the story reach more people who need to feel this kind of emotional justice. If this transformation moved you, tap the like button. It tells the algorithm that stories with real emotional impact deserve to be seen. And don't stop here, click the video on your screen now. If this story made your heart tighten, the next one will pull you in even deeper. Your journey through these emotional stories continues right there.